So if I say, you're very cute, I wanted to meet you, and you say,
oh, thank you so much. You're very cute too.
Okay, yeah, you said, perfect. So that's a great response. You'd love to get that response. Thank you, you're very cute too. That does happen sometimes, right? Not the most common, but it's positive and it works, right? Well, thank you. I wasn't even fishing for the compliment, but I'll absolutely take it. So I have to go in a minute, but what should two very cute people do here in New York? I don't even know where to proceed with this. I'm very flustered.
Well, we can get to know, be inspired by getting to know each other.
Perfect, all right. So what happened? I got a positive, I go ahead and I escalate. I escalate by sitting down, I escalate by saying, implying we're both cute, implying a relationship almost, etc. Because I got a positive, I have free reign to escalate in various ways. I could also just escalate in lesser ways. Asking for her name would be a minor escalation, for example. But if you open direct and you get a positive response, you have a window to escalate. Please take that window. Don't cycle back to an opener if that happens, right? If you did a premise open and you didn't get a positive response, well, now you haven't achieved premise. You may have said a premise-y thing, but her, fighting the premise or not responding, it's the opposite of getting premise, so then you're still in the premise phase. Okay. So that works with a direct open. If it was an indirect open, it doesn't apply as much because premise hasn't been introduced, so you haven't really engaged with that model yet. Does that make sense? What if you get a negative? I opened a certain way, and the response was negative. So let's say I open direct. You want to be the negative response? He's good for this because I know he has field experience. I know he's gotten all these responses. Okay, so hey, sorry, you're very cute. I wanted to come talk to you.
Why?
First of all, because that response was hilarious. That was awesome. I actually have to go in a minute, but given that you're hilarious, can I ask you something really random?
I mean, if you have to go in a minute, you should probably get going, but sure, fine, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Your permission means a lot to me.
You're welcome. I won't give out permission a lot, just letting you know.
I know I'm special, I appreciate it. So anyway, what I wanted to ask. So what did I do there, just slight format-wise, right? So negative response, two things I did. Number one, false time constraint, right? I acted like it's not gonna last that much longer. I take some pressure off of it. And then I reopened with something different. What was my second open? Can I ask you something random? Can I ask you something kind of unusual, something like that? So the first opener was a direct opener. That's one opening format that can work. You gave a compliment. Sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't. You wanna reopen, you don't wanna just leave on like one mild rejection, but you don't wanna do the same thing that, it's just, definition of insanity, doing again what has been proven not to work. Change it up. So I went with a direct opener, it didn't work. Second time I went with an intrigue-based opener. Can I say something, can I ask you something kind of unusual? Even if she doesn't care or whatever, maybe she's like just intrigued by like, what is this unusual thing? Right? And maybe that captures her interest a little bit. So it's a different style of opener. Different openers work for different reasons. Some are hooking on validation, some are hooking on social politeness, some are hooking on intrigue. And so if like social politeness didn't work, go to intrigue. If positivity didn't work, maybe go with something more polarizing and more like instigating and maybe get a shit test. Right, yeah, so if you open direct and it goes really well, then yes, the conversation can have a lot more momentum and you can be a lot more overt than if you'd opened a different way. If you open like something like an opinion opener, hey, can I ask you an opinion on something, and you just have the like survey type question, then obviously continuing down that vein is not man to woman yet, but you can throw in something man to woman 10 seconds later and shift it to, and then you can make it man to woman. So you can always interrupt your opener and take it in a different direction too. But yeah, in general, the opener will dictate unless you do something actively to change that. What about when you get like a lukewarm answer? All right, you say like, hey, you had a really interesting look. I wanted to come say hi to you. And they say, okay, thanks, right? It's not negative. Thank you is a positive, right? It's a positive thing. But it's not super like, it's not exactly what we'd like. It's a very mild positive or maybe neutral or something like that, right? So two things you could do. One, you could do what I said originally, which is misinterpret it as a positive. You're quite welcome, treat it as a positive and just go forward. That actually can work sometimes. Or what you can do is you can elaborate, because this topic has already been proven to non-fail. It didn't succeed, but it non-failed, right? And so it's a safe topic at least. So if I say, interesting look, and she says, thank you, like, yeah, no, it's actually very unusual in New York. Usually people are like all black and this and that, but you opted with some color. So you're either very fun or you're psycho. I'm not sure, right? So I'm elaborating, I'm explaining or giving more value, giving more she could latch onto with the initial comment. Because it was proven to not be negative, at least I probably won't get a negative on that, right? So it's a safe second attempt. If that didn't work, then maybe I'd cycle to a different style of opener. Again, you introduced a topic, you got like enough buy-in that she responded, but not much. give her more to work with, right? Because oftentimes these like nervous thank you kind of responses are like, thank you, I guess, whatever. It's not she doesn't like you, it's that she's just like nervous. It's like she wasn't, excuse me, a second ago she was like flipping through Instagram, now she's being talked to by a guy. It's very sudden for her, it's surprising. She needs a minute to kind of come to grips with it. Just keep talking and let her like realize this is okay. Oftentimes that's enough. Okay, so that's a nice little model for you guys. Very, very useful off the open. When you open, if it's positive, escalate. If it's negative, change the type of opener. If it's neutral, oftentimes elaborate on the same opener because it's safe in the sense it was non-negative. If you were to elaborate and then you got another neutral or a negative, then you could switch the type of opener. Obviously, if you elaborate and then get a positive, now you got a positive, you can escalate. All right, so it's a very simple model you guys can use.